I arrived at the lodge in the Appalachian Mountains a few weeks ago. I was excited for the week-long photography retreat. I'd been hiking and taking pictures for years, and I wanted to capture the beauty of the mountains. The lodge was charming but had a creepy vibe. It was surrounded by towering trees and empty trails. The air was crisp, and the smell of pine filled my lungs. As night fell, I felt a twinge of anxiety, but I pushed it aside. On my first night, I lay in bed, trying to sleep. That's when I heard faint footsteps outside my window. I thought maybe it was just some wildlife. But the rustling kept going. I sat up, straining to listen, my heart racing. I figured it was just the strange sounds of being in the woods. I tried to calm myself. As the days went by, more weird things happened. My camera batteries drained faster than ever. I had charged them completely before leaving. One day, I found strange carvings on trees that looked like faces. But when I tried to take pictures of them, my camera wouldn't work. I felt a chill, like someone was watching me. I told myself it was just paranoia. At night, I heard voices in the woods. They started as whispers. I thought maybe other retreat participants were outside talking, but when I looked, I saw nothing. The group seemed tense. Nobody talked openly about the strangeness, but I felt they sensed it too. We were all uneasy, but we avoided discussing it. One night, while sitting on the porch, I noticed a figure in the shadows. They stood just beyond the tree line. My heart sank. I called out, but they didn't move. I asked if they were okay, but there was silence. My breathing quickened. Was it another guest? It was too dark to tell. The next morning, I searched for the figure in the woods, but nobody was there. Was I imagining it? Everything felt murky. I wanted to walk away, but I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was wrong. Later, as I prepared to leave, I glanced back at the lodge. Then I heard a whisper, "Why are you leaving?" I froze. Nobody was around. That thick, unsettling feeling wrapped itself around me. I drove away from the Appalachian Mountains, but I felt trapped, haunted by what I had experienced. Back home, I couldn't forget it. Late at night, memories would rush into my mind. The whispers echoed, and my heart raced all over again. I often looked at my photos from that trip, but they didn't seem right. Something was off. I couldn't tell anyone. What would I say? I knew the mountains had kept something from me. I felt like I was missing a part of myself after that week. Even now, I wonder if the lodge still hides its secrets in the shadows. The day after I returned home, I couldn't shake the nagging feeling that something was wrong. My friends noticed I was quieter than usual. When they asked about my trip, I brushed it off. It was beautiful, I said. But deep down, the memories surfaced, pushing me back into that unsettling place. That evening, I sat in front of my laptop, staring at the photos I had taken. I wanted to find something worth sharing, some proof of the beauty I had experienced. But the pictures felt different. They were too dark, too shadowed. I flipped through them faster, trying to find a shot of the mountains that might seem familiar. My hands trembled slightly. Then I noticed something strange in one of the photos taken at sunrise. A figure loomed in the background, just barely visible. The light was behind them, casting an ominous shadow. I felt cold creep into my bones. I zoomed in, heart racing. The figure appeared to have a twisted expression, almost like a face was distorted in pain. I leaned back, trying to gather my thoughts. Was it my imagination? Or had I captured something I shouldn't have? I decided to reach out to a fellow participant from the retreat, someone I thought might share my concerns. I found Sarah's contact information in an old email. She had always seemed uneasy, just like me, and I hoped that she could provide some clarity. As I typed out the message, doubt flooded my mind. What if I was overreacting? But I hit send anyway, and waited. Hours passed, and I was restless, pacing my apartment. The phone felt heavy in my pocket, too silent for comfort. Just as I began to think she wouldn't reply, a notification pinged. A message from Sarah flashed on my screen. I thought I was the only one. Can we meet? I need to talk. Her urgency sent a wave of apprehension crashing over me. What had happened to her? I quickly agreed to meet at a nearby cafe. That night, I couldn't sleep, tossing and turning until the alarm finally buzzed. At the cafe, Sarah arrived looking pale and worn out. She glanced around, her eyes darting to the shadows cast by the overhead lights. I felt a knot in my stomach. Did you hear the voices? She asked, her voice trembling. I nodded slowly, the memory sending chills down my spine. I thought I was losing my mind, she said, almost whispering. But it felt real, like they wanted something from us. I leaned in closer, urging her to continue. What do you mean? She pulled out her phone and showed me a photo. It was taken just outside the lodge, but something was off. In the background, I could see what looked like a dark figure watching us. I saw it move, she said. When I went to take the picture, it was gone. An icy fear gripped me. Was it all connected? What had we stumbled across in those woods? I wanted to leave it behind, but I could feel it pulling me back like a magnet. Just as I opened my mouth to ask more, Sarah's phone buzzed again. She turned white. I have to go. What? Why? I have to get away from here. Something isn't right. Then she stood up, her eyes wide with fear, and rushed out of the cafe. I stared after her, my heart sinking. This was escalating quickly. I had to find out what it all meant. But as I picked up my own phone, I saw something flash on the screen that made me freeze in my seat. It was a new notification from my own gallery app. Face detected. I felt my heart race, a sick pit forming in my stomach. Face detected. What did that even mean? I quickly tapped the notification, anxiety flooding over me. It brought me to a recent photo, the one with the shadowy figure. My hands were shaking as I opened it. I zoomed in again, biting my lip. The figure seemed even more pronounced. It was as if the shadows had shifted, revealing more details. There was something inhuman about the face, eyes sunken and hollow, the mouth twisted in what looked like a silent scream. I wanted to look away, but I couldn't. I was stuck, transfixed by a sense of dread that wrapped around me like a thick fog. I dashed outside the cafe, needing air, needing clarity. The streets felt engulfed in shadow despite the midday sun. I sought out the park nearby, hoping to collect my thoughts. The leaves rustled ominously above me, as if whispering secrets I wasn't ready to hear. A nearby couple passed by, their animated conversation shattering the silence, but their laughter felt distant, unreal. I pulled out my phone and texted Sarah, hoping she hadn't gone too far. Are you okay? Meet me at the park. I left it at that and waited, tapping my foot nervously against the ground. Minutes crawled by, dread building in my chest. Then my phone buzzed again. It wasn't Sarah. It was a notification from my gallery app once more. Face detected. Panic coursed through me. I hurriedly opened it. Another photo. This time, it was one I recognized, the group shot we took right before the retreat. But there, looming in the background, was that same shadowy figure, clearer than ever. It stood beside one of the trees, eyes fixed on us, an unmistakable malice that chilled me to the bone. My breath caught in my throat. What was it doing there? I hadn't noticed anything unusual when I took the picture. I glanced around, half expecting to see that figure lurking behind me, but all I saw were trees and the distant playground echoing with laughter. Suddenly, I felt a weight pressing down on me, as if the air had thickened. I turned quickly, scanning the park. The laughter grew fainter, swallowed by some oppressive quiet. Then I heard it, a low whispering, like a breeze carrying voices just out of reach. I strained to listen, my heart hammering in my chest. It was indistinct, but the tone felt urgent, twisted with desperation. "Leave now," the words slipped through the trees, wrapping around me. My instinct screamed at me to flee, but curiosity kept me rooted. What did it want? What was happening? That S when dread morphed into a desperate need for answers. I turned back toward the cafe, convinced I needed to confront Sarah. I needed to know what we had awakened. I sprinted down the path, the whispering fading as I increased my pace. Just as I rounded the corner, my phone buzzed one last time. I stopped dead in my tracks when I saw the notification. A new photo had appeared in my gallery. I had no memory of taking it, but it was dated from the night we arrived at the lodge. I clicked it open, my blood running cold. There, in the dim lighting of the lodge's hallway, I could see the shape of a figure standing right over my shoulder. And it was smiling. I couldn't breathe. The figure in the photo was unmistakable. It was the same shadowy presence that haunted my phone, a twisted smile stretching across its face, mere inches away from me. I felt a deep sickness in my stomach, a mix of fear and confusion. I stumbled backward, my eyes darting around the park as if the figure might leap out of the trees. "This isn't real," I muttered under my breath, trying to convince myself. I needed to focus. I had to get to Sarah. I quickly turned back toward the cafe. As I hurried down the sidewalk, I glanced at the time. Our lunch had ended only 30 minutes ago, and yet it felt like an eternity. I was flooded with a sense of urgency, but my steps faltered. What if this was connected to the retreat? What if we weren't alone? My mind raced as I recalled strange occurrences during our stay, the unsettling sounds at night, the weird vibes that seemed to ripple through the halls. I arrived at the cafe, pushing the door open with a shaky hand. The atmosphere felt different as I stepped inside. The buzz of conversations hung heavy in the air, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. I scanned the tables. Sarah was nowhere to be seen. "Hey, are you okay?" The barista's voice snapped me back to the moment. I looked up, startled. "Have you seen Sarah?" I asked, not bothering to hide my panic. "Yeah, she left a few minutes ago. Seemed like she was in a hurry. Something about needing to talk to you." My heart sank. "Did she say where?" The barista shrugged. "She just ran off toward the park, I think." Without hesitating, I pushed through the door and raced back outside. I called out for Sarah as I ran. The park seemed to loom before me like a dark omen. As I reached the entrance, I spotted her sitting on a bench, her head in her hands. Relief flooded me, but that quickly faded when I saw her visibly shaking. I approached cautiously. "Sarah!" I exclaimed as I sat down beside her. "What's wrong?" She looked up, her eyes wide with fear. "You've seen the photos, right?" I nodded, confusion mixing with dread. "Yes." "How do you know?" I've been getting notifications too. Every time I think I can ignore it, it gets worse. I thought if I came here, it would stop." Her voice cracked, and I felt a chill crawl down my spine. "What do you mean worse?" She pulled out her phone, hands trembling. "Look." I took it from her, my breath hitching in my throat as I saw another image, this one showing us at the lodge's dining hall during dinner, except there, lurking just behind the group, was the figure, closer than ever. It seemed more defined, its smile widening. The wind picked up suddenly, rushing through the trees. A sense of danger pulsed in the air. I felt like we were being watched. Then, before I could voice my concerns, I heard that whisper again, as if it were just inches from my ear. "You shouldn't have come back." My heart raced. I turned to Sarah, panic rising. "We need to leave." Now. As we stood to go, I caught a glimpse of movement from the corner of my eye. I turned just in time to see a figure dart behind a tree at the edge of the park. I froze. "Did you see that?" I breathed. Sarah nodded, her face pale. Then it was gone. "Let us run," I urged. Just as we took off, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I swallowed hard, feeling the familiar weight of dread settling in again. The notification had appeared, but I already knew what it would say. Face detected. We sprinted through the park, adrenaline pushing us forward. Each step felt heavier, as if the air itself was trying to pull us back. The trees seemed to close in, their shadows stretching toward us, drawing out the fear that clung to my throat. "Where do we go?" Sarah gasped, glancing around, her eyes wide with panic. "Anywhere but here," I shouted. We dashed onto Main Street, the coffee shop fading behind us. I could still hear the rustle of leaves and the whisper, curling like smoke in my mind. "You shouldn't have come back." I shook my head, trying to silence it. I was more afraid of that voice than anything else at that moment. As we moved past storefronts, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in a shop window. My face looked wild, eyes darting, breaths ragged. I turned away, not wanting to dwell on the fear etched on my features. Then I remembered. "The lodge," I panted. "We need to go back. There might be something there that can explain this." Sarah hesitated. "Are you sure? What if it's worse?" I grabbed her arm, urgency coursing through me. "We can't let it control us. We need answers." With a reluctant nod, she agreed, and we started back the way we came. The closer we got to the lodge, the more the air thickened, like a storm brewing on the horizon. During our walk, I tried to calm myself. "Think about it, Sarah. Everyone at the retreat saw something strange. Maybe there's a reason we're getting these photos." She looked down, clearly wrestling with her own fears. "And what if it's a warning? What if we're not supposed to go back?" I didn't have an answer. All I knew was we couldn't just wait around. So, we pushed through. As we arrived at the lodge, the immense structure loomed like a fortress against the darkening sky. I hesitated at the door, heart pounding. "Let us stick together," I said. Inside, the familiar scent of wood and old carpets swirled around us. The light from the chandelier flickered, casting long shadows across the walls. I reached for the light switch but found it didn't respond. "Of course," I mumbled, frustration creeping in. Everything felt wrong. "Let us check the dining hall first," Sarah suggested, her voice barely above a whisper. We crept down the hallway, every creak of the floor echoing our anxious steps. As we reached the dining hall, I felt an involuntary shiver run down my spine. The long table, once vibrant with laughter, was now empty and eerie. The chairs were pushed away, as though everyone had rushed out in a hurry. Suddenly, a noise broke the silence. A soft thud came from behind the bar counter. My heart raced. I shared a glance with Sarah, and we both moved closer. That's when I saw it. A phone lying on the floor, illuminated by a faint glow. I picked it up, trembling as I noticed the background was an image from our retreat, but it was warped, intertwined with a dark shape in the periphery, unmistakably lurking close. I stared at Sarah, our fears converging. "Whose phone is this?" I asked, feeling dread coiling tightly around me. Before she could respond, the lights flickered again, plunging us into darkness. The ambient noise of the lodge faded, and I felt an overwhelming presence close in, a palpable sense of danger sinking into my skin. And then, in that suffocating silence, a voice echoed around us, not the whisper this time, but a commanding tone. "You shouldn't have returned." We were no longer alone. The voice hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. I pressed the phone tight against my chest, its cold surface sending chills through my fingers. Who are you?" I stammered, my voice almost lost in the void. "It doesn't matter," the voice replied, echoing in a way that made my skin crawl. "You made a choice." Sarah clutched my arm tightly. I could feel her shaking. "What does that mean?" she whispered, fear seeping into her words. For a moment, silence was all that answered. Then, from the shadows, a figure stepped forward. My heart dropped as I recognized the outline. It was James, one of the other retreat attendees. His expression was vacant, eyes unfocused, as if he were lost in a trance. "James?" I called, stepping towards him cautiously. "What's happening?" He blinked slowly, and for a brief second, I thought I saw recognition in his eyes. But then it flickered away, replaced by a haunting emptiness. "You shouldn't be here," he murmured, almost robotically, before tilting his head back to face the ceiling. I exchanged a panicked look with Sarah. We needed a plan. "Let us leave," I urged, but as I turned to head toward the exit, I felt an unnatural chill sweep through the room, pinning me in place. "Stay," the voice commanded again, its tone now sharper, more forceful. The temperature dropped further, and I saw my breath as mist in front of me. I struggled against the invisible grip. "Sarah!" I called, but she was frozen, wide-eyed, staring past me. Following her gaze, my heart sank. More figures emerged from the darkness, others from the retreat. Their faces were pale, similar to James. They moved like marionettes, limbs jerking unnaturally, following an unseen puppeteer. "Why are they like this?" I whispered urgently. The realization settled heavily: they were trapped, caught in whatever malevolent force lingered in the lodge. "We shouldn't have come back," Sarah echoed my thoughts, her voice trembling. Just then, one of the figures lunged at me. I stumbled back, nearly dropping the phone. "Stop!" I shouted, panic surging through me. The figure paused, inches from my face. Its expression was empty, but I could feel an overwhelming sense of dread radiating from it. This wasn't just fear. This was something darker. Dragging Sarah with me, I backed away, my mind racing. We have to find a way to break whatever hold this place has on them. As I fumbled for the door, still clutching the phone, I felt the temperature drop even lower. The lights flickered again and I glanced over my shoulder. The figures were now more animated. They were moving toward us, driven by a force I couldn't comprehend. "We need to find the source," I gasped, adrenaline fueling my resolve. Maybe there was something in the lodge that could save them, and us. My eyes landed on the bar. Perhaps there were supplies or something useful hidden there. "Quick, this way." I led Sarah toward the counter, hoping against hope that we could uncover something before it was too late. But as we neared the bar, the lights flickered one last time before plunging us back into darkness. A loud crash echoed from somewhere deep inside the lodge. My heart raced as I realized we had only moments left. "We need to hurry," I urged, pushing ahead, but an unsettling thought gripped me. What if whatever was in this place didn't want us to find anything at all? As we stumbled toward the bar, my fingers brushed against the edge of the counter. I desperately scanned the darkened shelves, hoping for anything that could help us escape this nightmare. "Look for a flashlight or something," I urged Sarah. "And nothing else here," she stammered, her voice quivering as she edged closer to me. I could hear the tremor in her breathing, matching the erratic beats of my heart. The crash from deeper within the lodge sounded again, louder this time. It was followed by the sound of shuffling footsteps approaching from the shadows. The weight of the darkness was almost suffocating, every second stretching out as I fought to inhale. "Hide!" I whispered urgently, pulling Sarah behind the bar. We crouched low, peering through the gaps in the shelves. The figures were almost upon us, their movements jerky yet purposeful. "Where did they go?" One of them mumbled, a low, haunting groan that echoed off the wood-paneled walls. I realized how close to despair they were. They were searching, but for what? "Maybe they aren't all gone," I thought aloud, the realization hitting me like a gut punch. What if they're looking for someone to join them? A heavy silence descended, broken only by the soft whir of the wind outside. I had to know what was going on. I couldn't stay hidden forever. I glanced up just as a figure stopped in front of the bar, face shadowed. "James?" I whispered, recognizing him despite the haze in my mind. What was left of him seemed almost human, an echo of who he used to be. "James, it's me." He tilted his head, his eyes flickering with brief recognition. For a moment, I thought I could reach him, pull him back from wherever he was trapped. But then it was gone, slipping back into that abyss of emptiness. "Why are you here?" His voice cracked, almost desperate. "You shouldn't have come back." "We know that," Sarah said, trembling as she peered over the edge of the bar. "But we have to help you." "Help?" He laughed, a sound that sent chills through me. "There is no help here. Only choices." He turned abruptly and started to glide away, as if beckoned by an unseen force. "No. Wait!" I shouted, and as the words slipped from my lips, the air around us grew heavy. The temperature plummeted again, and a sharp wind rushed through the lodge, whipping through my clothes, chilling me bone deep. Suddenly, something caught my eye, a glimmering object beneath the bar. I hesitated for only a moment. "Over there." I pointed frantically. "What is it?" Sarah whispered, her fear palpable. "I don't know, but we need to find out." I crawled toward it, fumbling in the dark. My fingers brushed against something metallic. I gripped it tightly, pulling it out into the light. It was an old key, ornate, almost pulsating with a strange energy. My heart raced. This could be it. Maybe it's the key to setting them free. But just as that thought solidified, a looming shadow fell over us. I glanced up to see another figure standing at the edge of the bar, its eyes locked onto the key. This one was different. It moved swiftly, and it wasn't here for conversation. "Run!" I shouted, shoving the key into Sarah's hand. We darted toward the back exit, the chaos of the lodge behind us unraveling faster than I could comprehend. But as we ran, a piece of my mind nagged at me. What awaited us outside? Would this key truly be our salvation, or had I just put us in deeper trouble? We burst through the back door, slamming it shut behind us. The cool night air hit my face like a splash of cold water, but I barely registered it. My mind was racing. I glanced at Sarah, fear evident in her wide eyes. "This way," I urged, leading her down the narrow path that snaked away from the lodge. The trees loomed over us, their gnarled branches swaying in the wind. Shadows flickered and danced as the moonlight struggled to break through the thick canopy. I could hear the distant sound of thudding footsteps. They were coming. "Do you think James will be okay?" Sarah panted, trying to keep pace with me. "I don't know," I admitted, guilt gnawing at my insides. "But we can't think about that now. We need to find somewhere safe." We zigzagged through the underbrush, not daring to look back. The sounds grew louder, a cacophony of frantic movements echoing through the dark. Each footfall made my skin crawl, every crack of a branch felt like a warning. That's when I saw it. A faint glow flickered in the distance, cutting through the dark like a beacon. "Look!" I said, pointing toward it. "There's something up ahead." "What if it's better than staying here?" I interrupted. We headed towards the light, our hearts pounding in unison. As we approached, the glow pulsed, illuminating a small clearing. In the center stood an old well, and the light emanated from within. My stomach twisted as I approached the edge. The well seemed ancient, its stones worn and cracked. "What is that?" I whispered. "Maybe it's a reflection," Sarah said, squinting. I could see the flicker of something moving beneath the surface, shadows shifting like they were alive. I leaned closer. "Wait," I can't see any water. As the realization hit me, my heart dropped. There's no water, just darkness. What does that mean? Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath us, and the clearing darkened, the light from the well intensifying. I stumbled back, pulling Sarah with me just as the wind whipped through, sending dirt flying. We need to get away from here. I shouted, but as I turned, I was met with a chilling sight. Figures emerged from the trees, their faces hidden yet filled with an unmistakable hunger. They found us. Sarah cried. I could hear her breaths quickening, panic setting in as the crowd advanced. Hold on to the key, I yelled, turning to run in the opposite direction. But as I glanced back, I saw one of the figures reach for Sarah. I grabbed her wrist, yanking her forward. We sprinted for the edge of the clearing, my mind racing for any escape route. But the shadows were closing in. I could hear their breath, ragged and heavy. Time was slipping away. We have to jump, I said, spotting a dense cluster of trees just beyond the clearing. Now. Without waiting for an answer, I took off, plunging into the dark. The figures loomed behind us, angry howls echoing through the air. They were following, relentless. As we dove into the underbrush, branches snagged at my clothes and thorny vines clawed at my skin. We pressed on, desperate, the darkness swallowing us whole. Just as I thought we'd gained ground, a flash of light erupted behind me. I stumbled, almost falling. What was that? Sarah shouted, panic in her voice. I don't know, I yelled, but my instinct told me we were far from safe. The chase was just beginning. I pushed deeper into the thicket, my lungs burning, heart racing. The sounds of the figures behind us mixed with the rustle of leaves. Each step felt like a gamble. Would the ground hold me? Would another thorn snag my skin? Sarah stumbled again, her breath hitching as she tried to keep up. Over there, I gasped, spotting a low-hanging branch that offered a brief respite. We darted toward it, ducking beneath its cover. My pulse thrummed in my ears as I pressed against the rough bark, hoping it would conceal us. I can't keep running like this, Sarah whispered, her voice shaky. We need to rest just for a second, I replied. But if they catch up, a growl echoed from deeper in the woods, cutting off my words. The sound was unlike anything I'd heard before, raw and primal. Our eyes locked, terror fusing us in place. Then, as if answering the growl, the ground quaked again. I felt it vibrating through my feet, growing stronger. We can't stay here, I said urgently, grabbing Sarah's arm. But before we could move, the sounds of footsteps halted. They were too close. What do we do? Sarah's voice was nearly silent, but I could feel her tremors. We go. I led her back into the chaos, muscles straining, adrenaline surging. Darkness wrapped around us as we darted again through the underbrush. Then, unexpectedly, the bright glow flared back to life. I froze, the urge to approach the light almost overpowering. What now? I whispered. Sarah looked back, eyes wide. Do you think it's safe? She asked, her voice a mere breath. I don't know, I admitted. But we can't just stand here. We edged closer, peering past the dense vegetation until we spotted the well again. The light flickered like a heartbeat. Shadows continued to swirl beneath the surface, but now, faint, ghostly figures began to take form. My heart dropped. What is that? I can't tell. Sarah took a cautious step back. Maybe we should just keep running. Before I could argue, the growl erupted again, more thunderous this time, shaking the very air around us. The figures in the well twisted, reaching up, arms stretching, desperate. It's a trap, I realized. They're luring us in. I pulled Sarah away, but then a blood-curdling scream echoed through the trees, a sound that froze the blood in my veins. What was that? Sarah choked out, terror lacing her voice. I couldn't respond, my throat had gone dry. We had to go, and fast. Just as I turned, I spotted a path narrow and winding snaking around the well. The light became more frantic, drawing me in. My mind raced with the decision. Stop. A voice boomed, deep and primal. I spun, eyes wide, but the words felt like they were coming from everywhere. The shadows coalesced around us, forming faces, haunting and grotesque. "We'll never let you escape," one shadow whispered, its voice a chilling echo of our fears. I tugged at Sarah, urgency surging through me. "Run!" I shouted, taking off down the new path, adrenaline pushing me past the point of rational thought. But as I glanced back, that eerie light from the well dimmed, and everything fell silent. I skidded to a halt, only to see the dark figures surrounding the clearing, watching us. I felt a pull, an urge to look back once more. But this time, a white-hot flash erupted from behind me, blinding me for a moment. I shielded my eyes, fear coursing through me. "What the hell was that?" Sarah shouted, voice wavering. I didn't answer. The silhouette of a figure emerged in the corner of my vision, tall, menacing, and moving toward us. "Run!" I screamed again, knowing we had to escape whatever horror that was lurking behind us. We tore down the narrow path, pushing ourselves harder than I thought possible. Branches whipped at our faces and legs, but I barely felt the sting. All that mattered was getting away. I darted forward, calculating each step like my life depended on it, because it did. "I can see the road," Sarah shouted, her voice almost drowned out by the crackling silence enveloping the woods. Hope surged in my chest, but anxiety gnawed at the edges. The oppressive darkness loomed behind us, and I could still feel the hungry eyes watching. "Keep running," I urged, feeling the pull of that darkness grip my heart. We pushed harder, breaking free from the thicket into the open air. The silver moon hung high, casting an eerie glow on the path ahead. Relief bubbled within me, but it was short-lived. I could hear them behind us, the whispers and growls merging into a haunted symphony that tugged at my sanity. We reached the roadside, gasping for breath, but we didn't stop. My heart sank when I noticed the moonlight reflecting off something disturbing in the distance, a familiar, chilling silhouette. The lodge. "No," I whispered, panic clawing at my throat. "It couldn't be. We had escaped, didn't we?" But there it was, standing ominously at the end of the path. Its windows were dark, its presence exuding an unseen weight that pressed down on me. "Do we go back, or keep running?" Sarah panted beside me, eyes wide with terror. "There's no choice," I said, feeling the pull inside me. The key clutched in my hand felt heavier than ever. This was where everything had started. "We have to confront this." "Are you insane?" she gasped, grasping my arm desperately. "Whatever's in there, it can't be dealt with." We can't keep running from it," I interrupted, taking a step toward the looming structure. "There's something we're missing, something we have to face." With a nod that radiated uncertainty but acceptance of our predicament, Sarah followed my lead. We walked toward the lodge, moving hesitantly, each footstep echoing louder in the dread-filled silence. It was as if the lodge welcomed us back, as if it were breathing a sigh of relief. Just then, a flurry of shadows darted through the trees behind us, swirling like a tempest. My heart raced. I glanced back to see distorted faces peeling away from the shadows, writhing and reaching for us. "Run!" I shouted, the decision made for us. We sprinted back inside the lodge, plunging into its dark depths. Inside, the silence wrapped around us. Dust motes danced in the narrow beams of light filtering in through the cracks of the old wooden walls. But a feeling of dread settled in the pit of my stomach as reality sunk in. We had entered a place where time had lost its meaning, where malevolence permeated every corner. The dining hall felt different now. The air murmured with low whispers that twisted around our thoughts, echoing "You shouldn't have come back" over and over. I shuddered, gripping the key tightly. "I think we need to go back to the well." "I don't think that's wise," Sarah said as fear etched deep lines on her face. "It's our only chance." "Maybe it's the key to breaking this curse," I urged, my voice desperate. With escalating dread, we moved toward the back of the lodge and stepped outside again. Shadows danced around us, lurking just beyond the light. I turned to the well as it glowed faintly in the distance, a siren call pulling me forward. As we reached the well, the swirling darkness began to converge, forming vague figures with twisted expressions. It was as if they had been waiting. "No!" I shouted as they began moving toward us, their voices rising into a cacophony of shrieks and laughter. The air felt electric, charged with some unseen force that threatened to implode around us. "Drop the key!" Sarah screamed, and without thinking, I hurled the ancient object toward the center of the well. As it fell, the light flickered violently, illuminating everything and plunging us into chaos. The well erupted with a blinding flash, illuminating the entire clearing. I shielded my eyes, feeling the air vibrate with a pulse as the dark figures slowed, their furious expressions baffled. The ground trembled beneath us as the figures seemed to dissolve into smoke, a furious wind swirling around constructing and deconstructing their shapes. "Is it working?" Sarah shouted over the cacophony, her voice barely audible. I didn't know. But I felt something shift within me. This place, this thin veil between sanity and despair, was coming apart. My heart raced in sync with the chaotic energy wrapping us. The whispers mixed with a collective howl of longing, both of rage and sorrow. Somehow, deep down, I understood. We couldn't control this darkness, but we also wouldn't let it rip us apart. Then, together, we stepped forward toward the well, our shared breaths connecting in a fragile moment of clarity. With a single voice echoing in my heart, I shouted, "We choose life." The brilliance from the well surged, sending a warm wave washing over us, enveloping the shadows. The figures lingered, then slowly unraveled, losing cohesion until only wisps of darkness floated away into the night sky. And just like that, silence embraced us once more. I leaned over the well, breathing hard. The shadows that had gripped the lodge faded, and with each breath, the weight I carried began to lift. "We did it," I whispered. "Did we?" Sarah looked around, uncertainty still clinging to her eyes. But the shadows had retreated, and the well pulsed softly with a gentle hum. A lingering connection crude with resolve tied us to our decision. And then we left, not glancing back, our steps lighter as we stepped into the wondrous embrace of dawn, the mountain air fresh and alive around us. Whatever remained in those woods, it was cloaked in uncertainty, left for the next wanderers to confront. An echo of a choice we made, one I wouldn't soon forget. I still think about it sometimes. The mountains hold secrets I'll never uncover. The whispers haunt my dreams, fading in and out like the shadows cast by the trees. I've never returned, but who knows what lies hidden in the depths? What remains unclaimed? The question hangs on the edge of every memory.